people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Michaela Mayer has dropped the WBO junior middleweight title, focusing on the welterweight division. Michaela Mayer's quest for an undisputed crown will continue at welterweight, as WBO president Gustavo Olivieri announced that Mayer relinquished the super welterweight version of the belt. She still presently holds the WBC and WBA titles at 154. Those two sanctioning bodies play faster and looser with their rules than the others, so no telling how long they'll let her keep them. The WBO doesn't do that. It doesn't allow you to hold two separate versions of the same title at two separate weights, likely because they don't want a champion campaigning at one weight holding things up in another. They wish to be able to move their ranks fluidly, and thus they make their champions choose. They just made Michaela choose. Going from a division where she holds 3 belts to one where she holds just one initially seems counterproductive, but she's one fight away either way. 2020 bronze medalist O'Shea Jones holds the IBF title at 154, while Lauren Price holds the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles at 147. Mayer had a banner 2025, dousing the controversy of her first win over Sandy Ryan with a decisive victory in the rematch before outclassing Mary Spencer for 3 of the 4 major titles at junior middle. Michaela could easily be 24-0 with slightly different judging and remains one of the best female fighters in the game at 35. Price is likewise among the best in the business, but currently struggles with inactivity. She competed just once in 2025, routing Natasha Jonas for her 3-belt win in March. Promoter Ben Shalom chalked that up to boxers' own issues, but claimed they'd put an offer on the table for Price and Mayer to fight later this year at the Royal Albert Hall. That said, he also claimed Price would fight next month in Cardiff, and we've yet to get any update on that, so who knows? Why is Michaela choosing to campaign at a weight where she only holds 1 belt instead of staying at a weight where she holds 3, or held 3? It's because the talent pool is a bit deeper at 147 than it is at 154, what you hear me say all the time in reference to Clarissa Shields. The higher up in weight you go in women's boxing, the easier the belts become to acquire. Easier to pick up, easier to hang on to. The talent pool just isn't as deep as the higher weights, whereas at 147, things are a bit more interesting, and thus, Michaela chose to move back down. Still in pursuit of the Lauren Price fight, that comparatively is bigger than any fight she could have had at 154. You could shoot for undisputed at 154, but not as many people would be paying attention at 154 if you do it at 147. Michaela also stated that she's got to defend her belt at 147 first, and her team is on it. So I guess they have a potential fight date in mind. We know that Top Rank is still in between broadcasters right now, and that greatly affects the careers of a lot of fighters, Michaela Mayer included. But I guess that behind the scenes, maybe the wheels are in motion. To my knowledge, she's still with Top Rank. She's not a free agent. And if she has a title defense coming up, I'm going to assume they are at the helm of the promotion. Over to Lauren Price. Boxer is not in between broadcasters like Top Rank, but they are operating at a reduced capacity. I wondered if Lauren Price, like Carolyn Dubois, would jump ship and maybe go to MVP or Matchroom. Nope. What this indicates is that she is still with Boxer and will be boxing under that promotional banner for the foreseeable future on the BBC platform, which is a big platform that is available in a lot of homes in Britain, but they're not kicking out the same money that Sky Sports was to Boxer for boxing. The more I sit back and look at where Lauren Price's career is right now, the more I think to myself, she made a mistake. She should have went to Matchroom, who could have done for her what they did for Katie Taylor, yet another Olympic gold medalist. I think if Lauren would have went to Matchroom, she would have been a lot more well-known by now, more talked about, and more seen. She would have been able to not only box in the United Kingdom, but also in the United States and south of the border in Mexico and Monte Carlo and Australia and all these various locations around the world where Matchroom does shows. Her global profile would be a lot better.
And a lot bigger.
She's only one belt away from becoming undisputed champion, though you'd never know it because you barely see the woman, and that has everything to do with boxers' promotion or the lack thereof. But apparently Michaela Mayer still has a fight with her on the brain, and it's for that reason she's decided to move back down to welterweight. So we'll see what happens for the both of them in the coming calendar year.
In men's lightweight news, an arrest warrant has been issued for boxing champion Gervonta Davis. An arrest warrant has been issued for WBA lightweight champion Gervonta "Tank" Davis in connection with an alleged domestic violence incident from October. The warrant has been issued on charges including false imprisonment, battery, and attempted kidnapping.
This is not a news story. It's in connection with the old one that has yet to be resolved. For a little while there, because things got so quiet, I half expected Gervonta Davis.
No, I thought maybe he made it all go away, paid the right people.
Apparently, this is still going on. Miami Gardens Police held a news conference on Wednesday. MGPD Executive Officer Emmanuel Genti stated that they are working with the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force to find Davis. At this time, the Miami Gardens Police Department is actively working with the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force to locate and apprehend Mr. Davis, Genti said.
Can they not find him?
Well, I remember reading a few weeks ago that they were trying to get in contact with Gervonta Davis to serve him his papers and move this process along, but they couldn't find him. What I interpreted as Gervonta Davis deliberately making himself hard to find to stall out this process and prevent it from turning into a criminal case.
But now that this news has seen the light of day, you wonder that by the time this video is uploaded, he won't turn himself into the authorities.
At this time, the Miami Gardens Police Department is actively working with the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force to locate and apprehend Mr. Davis, Genti said. Domestic violence is a serious crime, and the Miami Gardens Police Department remains committed to holding offenders accountable and protecting victims. The incident took place on October 27th at a gentleman's club in Miami Gardens, where the woman worked. A lawsuit was filed days after the incident by his ex-girlfriend, Courtney Rosell. In the lawsuit acquired by ESPN, Davis was alleged to have entered the gentleman's club where Rosell worked as a VIP cocktail server and attacked her in a back room of the club that did not have cameras.
Story that's become all too familiar over time. Gervonta Davis, by my count, has approximately 9 separate incidents, all detailing the same pattern of behavior. I mean, 9 times out of 10, if he has a run-in with the law, it's because he's putting his hands on some broad.
Davis allegedly grabbed the woman by the back of her head, pulling her with one hand and holding her throat with another as he forcefully dragged her through a stairwell, kitchen, and the back exit before physically assaulting her in the parking garage. She was eventually released to her co-workers by Davis and suffered bruises on her left arm. Police said that they reviewed surveillance footage from the club and it corroborates the woman's story. The investigation determined that Mr. Davis used force to restrain in an attempt to remove the victim from the location against her will. Genti said in the MGPD briefing. Rosell said she has known Davis since 2022 and was in an intimate relationship with the boxer for approximately 5 months. That relationship ended a month before the incident, and she blocked all forms of communication with Mr. Davis after the relationship ended, Genti added. The lawsuit was filed 2 weeks before Davis was supposed to face Jake Paul in a boxing match at the Kaseya Center in Miami. However, Davis was pulled from the fight and Paul instead fought Anthony Joshua in December. This is the latest in Davis's history of legal issues, which include charges related to domestic violence and fleeing the scene of a car crash. Several of his cases have been dropped, but he was sentenced to a 90-day house arrest and 3 years of probation for a 2023 hit and run.
This guy don't belong in society with normal people. And you can tell that he's not normal because in doing this to this broad, you costed yourself $40 million. He goes to put the paws on this broad 2 weeks before the Jake Paul fight that he was supposed to be promoting what would have been his retirement fund.
The guy's not right in the head. He ain't got no common sense. And because this just keeps happening over and over,
I think he should be removed from society. And no, I don't think it's a byproduct of him being a boxer, because not every boxer gets into this kind of trouble this many times. I think it's a byproduct of a man with a Napoleon complex.
very poor impulse control, who's gotten away with this enough times that now he thinks he's above the law, so he keeps doing it. While he's on probation, while he's supposed to be promoting a multi-million-dollar fight that would have got him enough money, he wouldn't even need to box anymore.
This fucker's stupid. I'm telling you, something is wrong with him.
And he needs to be removed from society. This sort of criminality, criminal behavior, should not be further enabled by allowing somebody like Gervonta Davis to walk among us freely.
Doesn't matter how many times these domestic abuse cases were dropped in the past, by now there is an established pattern, and for Gervonta, this is pattern behavior. I believe that initially this started out as a civil case, but now it's turned into a full-blown criminal case, and thus
It's a lot harder to make this go away. Remember, they said they viewed surveillance footage that corroborates this woman's account of events. If not for that, he could have kicked out a few $100,000 in hush money to make this go away, and I half expected that to happen. For so many years, I've said that Gervonta Davis is a fighter, if you even want to call him that, with no redeemable qualities. There's nothing good about this guy.
lock him up.
Throw away the key. No amount of accolades in a professional boxing ring are enough that we should look the other way at what is this pattern behavior.
What the fuck is wrong with him? Does he have fetal alcohol syndrome? Did his mom drink while she was carrying him?
Smoke crack?
She drop him when he was a baby? There's no reforming a guy like that. There's no fixing it. A guy like that don't belong in a civilized society. Lock him up.
I could have swore that I saw Fanon International take to his own channel claiming that Gervonta Davis would announce a fight date shortly.
But you know that guy's always making shit up?
I know. But the situation had gone so quiet for so long, I started to believe it.
It's looking all bad for the Butterball.
Men's super lightweight news. My days at 140 are numbered. Richardson Hitchens expects to soon move up in weight. 140-pound champion Richardson Hitchens just recently caught up with Fight Hype to discuss where things are headed for his career this year, some recent social media beefs, and how Oscar Duarte is looking to be the most likely candidate for his next fight, although the names he really wants are Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney.
Remember what I told you about him wanting to be one of the cool kids? He wants to be part of the Breakfast Club. Ryan, Devin, Teo, Shakur,
Broly.
Because in previous instances, every single one of those fighters has made more money for a fight than he has. Though having won one alphabet title is not enough for him to bring the soda and potato chips to crash their party.
Hitchens on his next fight said, "We're in negotiations right now. Nothing is set in stone. Still trying to see what's going on with that. Just waiting to see when's the next date I can get in the ring. Hopefully it's soon. I should be back in a few weeks, so it is what it is." First it was Jermaine Ortiz. That didn't work out. That brought up Oscar Duarte. I said, okay, let's get him in the ring. And so, yeah, that's the next guy. I feel like my days at 140 are numbered. I think that I'm soon going to be at 147. I already did what I had to do at 140. Became a world champion at the weight. If I can get a unification, good. If I can get the big fights, the fights that people think are the hardest and the biggest at 140, I'll take those fights. If not, I'm at 147.
How the fuck are you supposed to get those fights with no promoter in your corner to make them happen?
On his ongoing beef with Devin Haney, to me it's always boxing. I always bring up I'm better than Devin. I'll fight Devin Haney. Devin Haney can't fuck with me. But as far as him, I feel like he made it personal, because every time he's on Twitter, he's always tweeting something personal. It's always, he fucked my bitch, or he's always bringing a woman into it. I don't bring personal shit into boxing. I always say I'm the better boxer, but it is what it is. On the top names he wants to fight, Teofimo and Devin. Those are the top names I would want to fight. Those are the two guys I would love to fight. I think those are the big fights, and Teo, obviously, is about to fight Shakur. We'll see how that goes, and obviously, I want Shakur to win, because that's my brother. But if Teofimo somehow pulls out the win, it would be that much more of an even bigger fight with me and him. But I still got some business I've got to do.
I don't really like that Oscar Duarte fight for Richardson Hitchens stylistically. Oscar is a persistent pressure guy, a strong one, and I don't think Richardson Hitchens can keep him off, but we'll see if that fight comes into fruition.
Oscar Duarte is promoted by Golden Boy Promotions, where Richardson Hitchens is a free agent at this time, and so if that fight materializes, he's tantamount to being the away fighter. All the more reason for him to have extended his deal with Matchroom that I think they were willing to, but he made the mistake of announcing his free agency and, in effect, his disloyalty after everything they did for him.
After they rescued your career from the garbage, you tried to better deal them in search for greener pastures, just to end up stepping in shit.
Now, when you talk about Richardson Hitchens potentially moving up to 147 in pursuit of the big names and the big fights, without an alphabet title, to give those guys up there a reason to even look in your direction, I don't know how it's supposed to happen. Without a promoter?
And without any real marquee value, only really hardcore boxing fans even know who Richardson Hitchens is.
Say he has the Duarte fight at 140, and by some chance he wins it. He then decides to move up to 147. He's not going to get a fight with a big name just because he asks for one. He'd have to start the entire mandatory process over. And without a promoter to pay to make those fights happen and land those opponents, to keep him on a regular schedule of fights, he's really set himself back. And maybe he's just now starting to realize that the boxing matches you hear about all the time and see on your TV, they don't pay for themselves.
And the fighters ain't the ones paying for them either.
At a time where a myriad of broadcasters have withdrawn from the sport of boxing and fight dates are scarce, you deliberately walked away from the stability and security of Matchroom.
Now you're out in the cold.
The only way you're going to get a fight with a Haney or a Garcia or a Romero, any one of those big names, quote unquote, is to become their mandatory, because they're not just going to give it to you willingly, and to become their mandatory, you have to fight in those eliminators. To be in those eliminators, somebody's got to foot the bill, somebody's got to pay for it. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and you didn't bring your wallet.
You fucked up.
And I don't feel sorry for him, because that puts on display what I tell you guys all the time. Horror stories from previous eras of boxing have skewed the boxing community's perception on who the promoters are in all of this. Yes, sometimes the promoters are scumbags, but other times, it's the fighters.
Looking for a one-size-fits-all answer to all these situations, you're overlooking that, yes, sometimes it's the fighters that are fucking up. Richardson Hitchens fucked up, and I don't pity him.